I'm so glad we finally get to do this episode.
Oh, finally, it's been hectic.
Yeah, no, schedules are definitely unforgiving. And Kholiwe, I think let's jump right in. Maybe give our listeners a little bit of a view of who you are, your career thus far, maybe some of the highlights. I think maybe let's start with that.
Wow. Thank you very much. I hope it's not going to take the whole of the podcast session. As a 50-year young lady, who am I? My name is Kholiwe Makhohliso.
You definitely do not look it. Let that just be said. I'm sure our listeners and viewers will agree.
Thank you. That's a nice compliment. I am from Mount Ayliff, a village, born to parents who have since passed on, unfortunately. I come from a nuclear family of boys and girls. I'm the last born in my family. I've got 2 kids, two beautiful kids.
I'm also the youngest. Do your older siblings also accuse you of being the spoiled one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yet I'm a breadwinner, and then when my parents used to ask me everything before they make a decision. So I've got 2 kids, a 23-year-old son.
Wow.
And a beautiful, assertive young girl, a 15-year-old, who is currently in grade 9, and my son is already working. So that's who I am, and that's where I come from. I studied in the Eastern Cape, studied BCom, then University of Transkei, which is now called Sisulu University, and I proceeded to do my studies with UNISA, and then progressed over the years, studying at Harvard and other universities like the Cranfield, UK.
Yes, that is quite a progression in education.
Thank you.
And your career, so where to from there? How did you start getting into the workplace? Because you weren't always with SAP, you've had quite a journey to get here.
Correct, and I didn't start in the technology sector. I started, as I mentioned, I did my BCom back then, majoring in accounting, audit, and information system. And I started my career as an auditor. So I spent a number of years as an auditor with the audit firm in the Eastern Cape for about 7 years. I left there as an audit senior, and then I joined Accenture in the consulting space. At the time, it was still in the Eastern Cape, doing some program management for the system implementation of the then looks the supply chain and the bus systems, which is the financial systems. So that's where I started my career. And then I moved after a few years to join Oracle. Oracle in the sales space. Now you can imagine moving from finance, from audit to a software company as an OEM. But I guess the career projection, the progression was actually quite good at the time, because we're moving from just pure sales to value selling, understanding the customer business requirements, what are their challenges, and how the solution, the technology could enable their business. So it was a good transition for me to get into that space. So I had a good stint with Oracle for a number of years, I think about 7 years. And then I left there as the MD of Oracle in 2017. I took a break to complete my studies at Harvard in 2018. That gave me also an opportunity to be with my kids. And then I joined Software AG. That's when I got at least the love with the Germans. So moving from your US multinationals, Accenture, Oracle, then I moved to the Software AG. I stayed there for about 5 years, and I was the MD as well. Then I'm here now.
That's fantastic, and I have to bring back the memory of last year at Sapila.
Wow.
We joke about launching you, and you were so graceful, literally launching your career at SAP, pretty much at Sapila. What an awesome stage to do it on, and very well received.
It was a fantastic launch because it gave me an opportunity to really have a view and close connect with the depth and breadth of our customer base, as well as really getting to understand how the customers, hearing from the customers, how they have deployed the solutions. So it really launched me and really accelerated my engagement and understanding, and I think that was the best thing. That timing could not have been perfect.
That's awesome, and it's so nice to hear you speak like that. And speaking of what the customers want and what the customers need and how they're actually utilizing. Because I think often people think that if you're sitting on the OEM side of the fence, it's just all about sales and all about numbers. Of course, those things are important, but I think people don't, if they haven't been on that side of the fence, it's very hard possibly to understand that you really just want what's the best for the customer. I remember back in my sales days as well, it used to frustrate me because you know exactly what they need, but you're sitting with the sales hat. It's sometimes can be quite tricky to bridge that gap. It's
spot on, and I think if you look at my background and career, having been an auditor, finance, having been on the side of the customer, now I've got the view and understanding of the strategies of the customer, their challenges, but also because traditionally salespeople were seen as like playing golf or etc. But now your governance, your risk with my background in audit, so you bring that intimacy into the engagement with the customer and fully understanding their cycle, understanding their strategy and their business needs to really craft a solution that is a fit for our customers. I think for me, that was the best thing. I used to have friends who've been asking me, what is sales? What are you going to do? But I think when you package my experience, it actually landed very well that I don't see myself just as a salesperson, but and connect with our customers.
Yeah, no, that is definitely very important. And I think that coming from an audit and risk framed background is possibly very good for where we are with technology. Because I think we can say, on the one hand, you've got all this excitement of all the cool stuff, and I'm the biggest geek. I see. It's AI everything. I think it's just I'm finding new uses for it every day. And of course, you've got the concerns around risk in various forms. So I think it's nice coming from that background because we need some just sense and sensibility to calm things down sometimes, I think, to apply all the cool stuff within the framework of not going too cowboy. So I think that also possibly lends itself.
Without a doubt. But yes, we still have to balance. We are quarterly driven as software companies. But when you plan ahead with that insight, it makes the process much better.
Yeah. Yes. And something else that I see is also very close to your heart is on the skills development side. Can you tell us a bit more about that and how SAP is involved?
I've been fortunate enough to be in organizations that have afforded me to really play that role, to really have an impact in the transformation. And I think it's also closer to home because of my background, where I grew up, because at the time I was never exposed to this kind of mentorship. I found my career along the way by chance and by default, and I made it a conscious decision when I got into those roles that, you know what, one has got to pay it forward, because I was fortunate also to have mentors, but not in a formal manner, who really helped me with my career. So when I got into positions where I could effect positive change, I just took it to heart. You go, even in my last roles at the previous organization, the initiatives that we drove that are really impactful, not just compliance that we've undertaken and just changing one life at a time and upskilling. So it's something that I've driven and really participated closely with. Now coming to SAP, the first day I came in and I was taken through the programs, I was wowed with so much that we are doing. And what is so important is that it's just in the DNA, not just from a South African perspective, as we're driving our transformation. It is the DNA that is at the group CEO's level. He's passionate about skills development, and Christian himself, he is actually the product of internship because he was with the academy. So driving that from a global perspective, from the global organization, is really a great thing that me passionate about it. I don't have to really influence that much. It's something that is within our ethos as an organization. So we've done a lot of programs across Africa, across the globe. I think when I joined initiatives like the internship programs, I think we're also partnering with you in some of the
Yes.
initiatives. You were part of the launch of some of the YPP program,
Yeah.
the Young Professional Project
Yeah.
program, which is quite intense. And the interns that have come out of that program, I am sure it's like our customers will take them at any day. We launched as well the Educate to Employ, which is also focused on unemployed graduates from learnership across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. I think it started in Singapore, but within South Africa now we are extending the program. It started with 200. I think we're going to over 600
Sure.
for the next intake.
Wow.
And we partner with the likes of UNICEF,
Yeah.
and we also have our partners in that ecosystem. So it's one of the great programs that I've seen that is really making an impact in the market.
That's amazing. Do you find that the skills are they starting to change in terms of what's required? And where I'm thinking is that traditionally these programs, you would have a whole lot of lovely young people. Not all of them necessarily would be placed, even with the partners. You'd still have a bunch that might still struggle for a bit before they actually got placed. And I think some of the skills there would have entailed them needing to be able to sell themselves, to approach customers, to go and do that bit by themselves. But I do think with the technology seemingly becoming more accessible these days, and especially as the connectivity improves, I'm thinking, are you seeing that some of those youngsters might also be starting up their own places, starting up their own companies, doing something that they now have the opportunity to do that wasn't there in the past?
Oh, most definitely. And I think what I didn't mention on the educating to employ, as much as the first phase was more for employment,
Yes.
but now we are capacitating the interns and the graduates for the gig economy, to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So enabling them to really make use of of the digitization in terms of launching the opportunities, in terms of finding opportunities in the market space. So it's one of the opportunities that really some of our programs have been catered for such, to create enabled platforms that are online for these kids to be able to find alternative job opportunities and business opportunities where possible.
Nice. And it's actually them creating their own ecosystem then, and their own partnerships.
And the connection and the networks that they are creating in that. Because what I've seen is that as much as we're sitting with a high percentage of unemployment, especially within our youth, how we can expose and build their skills for them to be able to be attractive to the global world. You've got demand now of our South Africa skills to UK,
Absolutely.
Ireland, and Canada. I was just having an interview this other day from one of the young guys who was pitching a solution. They've built an app on recruitment.
Yeah.
They had just come from Toronto. So there is
amazing.
An opportunity that we can harness for our kids, and I think that is what is making me so passionate about the investment that SAP is making.
It's going to be so interesting to look back 10 or 15 years down the line, maybe even 5 years, and see how the world of work has changed.
Completely. I'm not sure whether we're going to be dinosaurs in that space, because they are challenging us at every point. When you engage with these Gen Z and the Millennials, the creativity, the innovation, and their way of work is quite different, and how organizations can really adapt to those changing workforce landscapes.
Do you find that even though they are upskilled quite extensively and have those opportunities, that there's still a need for that, whether it's mentoring or coaching, or just have someone who they can shadow?
Nurturing, most definitely. I think that is still a requirement, but what I'm also finding is that they are not averse to that. I think they are embracing in terms of tapping into that knowledge as much as they have got their independent mindset. But I think that ability to really also take the views and embrace mentorship. So I think it's one of those programs that we incorporate within our programs to ensure that there's that mentorship, there's that workspace readiness, the etiquette in terms of the branding for our teams. So I think that definitely is still a requirement to harness their skills so that they can accelerate better into the market.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess they grew up in using YouTube to learn to do things. So it's probably not unusual to ask for things. I think when we were younger, you did ask, but more often you looked and learned.
Exactly.
You weren't necessarily open to say, look, I don't know, teach me. And I do also find that the youngsters seem to be more open to that. I want to learn this, help me.
They take charge. They take charge. They don't sit and wait.
Yeah.
They will probe and ask questions. But I think the other interesting part is, I don't know, in your organization, if you have the youngsters, if you're not giving them a job that has got an impact, it has got to be, it must have that impact, it must have those outcomes, otherwise they don't stay. So you need to interest them, you need to engage them so that they are really energized to be in that space, otherwise they will be looking elsewhere. But it's been amazing.
And I think that is a big shift because it's all about retention, but in some cases maybe it's not, because there are also use cases for having certain skills constantly come through, bring new ones in for a time, because that's the piece where they can add the most value and you to them, and then move on to the next one.
You're spot on that. If you're even looking at us, the organization, I think it's the same with other organizations. The repurposing of skills. You mentioned the AI. How do we now ensure that we upskill our existing workforce, but also attracting the young blood into the organization for the skills of the future? AI, having your data scientists into the organization, and it's something that we're also investing in within SAP in terms of the digital skills across the hubs, because it's one of our strategy to accelerate into the cloud.
And then it links back to the more traditional community, because in order for any of those tools to work properly, they also need to be context aware. So the individuals working on them, say for instance in a supply chain process scenario, need to understand that end-to-end supply chain. So they at the same time learning about how the business works as well.
Exactly. And in all the solutions that, whether it's HXM, it's ISBN, definitely you need to really make sure that the skill set is aligned in that area.
That's awesome. Tell me a bit more about how SAP Southern Africa fits into the larger EMEA region, and how, because I always often find that with SAP, you never quite know where the borders or the boundaries are.
Having worked in the previous multinationals, and the matrix structure always is fascinating, but when I got here, I'm like, yes, you need to navigate. Apparently there's even a diary for abbreviations, which I loved very much when I was introduced into the technology. I had the SAP Southern Africa, which includes South Africa, your Namibia, the SADC regions, your Malawi, part of Seychelles, in Mauritius. So that is my territory. And then we form part, and then there's East Africa and Emerging Africa. That reports into the cluster led by Sergio Makota, who is heading the cluster for EMEA South, and then rolls up to our president of the region, which has just been consolidated into SAP1, led by Imanos. Yes, that's where I fit.
Perfect.
And we're across all the industries.
Absolutely. And how do you find, so I guess language wouldn't be a big problem because there's a lot of French-speaking countries in there. Because I'm just thinking now with, in terms of accessibility to, whether it's to systems or to tools, or whether it's an extension of use development or skills development to those regions, the tools also now lend themselves to faster rollout because of the language capabilities.
Yes. So, for instance, the francophone countries don't fall under my territory.
Okay.
But as you are saying, the adaptability of our technology in terms of the different language models and languages within the different industries and countries has been quite easy in terms of adaptation.
So here's a funny question. If you were to be given the opportunity to join SAP earlier in your career, what do you think you would have done?
Okay, a light moment when I was approached by the recruiter. Then I look at this contact person on LinkedIn, only to find that around about 2013, they reached out to me, and I politely declined that. I'm not interested.
Wow. Yeah.
But fast forward, and he was like joking with me, say, here you are.
Yeah.
Look, I've always looked at SAP as one of those brands that had superior solutions.
Yes.
They were a major competitor at the time, and they were actually doing great in the market, and we're starting to get there. Would I have changed anything? I don't think I would have, but looking at the rate of acceleration into the cloud, especially in the Africa region, I think that journey, I don't know from your side, from the customer base, whether that could have been the opportunity to do. But I think what we've done now, we've accelerated quite a lot globally in terms of the move to the cloud and bringing new technologies. And because the solution is working even on prem, our customers to move to the cloud, it is a journey on its own where you have got to really showcase the value, make them understand in terms of the efficiencies, security and all that. So it's one of those things that I had the opportunity would have started a bit earlier. Because if you're looking at other countries like your Italy, your Middle East, they've already accelerated most of their customers. Obviously, we've got to take into context that Africa is a unique and a different region altogether. We've also got to understand the local complexities. But if we have to learn from what they have done, and also in terms of referencing as our customers, it's something that we could have done earlier, because now they're at a stage where they are tapping into innovation. You're taking AI, sustainability, and really bringing innovation to the organization. And by the way, congratulations on your new role, which is touching on innovation, which is something that we are going to be really engaging with our customers and alike in that space.
No, definitely. Thanks for that. And how do you see, because there seems to be quite a big move all around us with more focus on using South Africa as a skills hub in general for the rest of the world. Do you also see the same thing playing out?
Coincidentally, when Manos and the leadership were here, we were having discussions that are still at early stages, because what we've seen with the discussion and what I've experienced having met with our customers, it's one thing that they say is, we used to have depth of skills in country. South Africa used to be a go-to. There were premium resources, and I know back in the days, SAP skills were quite at a high premium and high demand. But because of the demand in country, they've also been attracted to the global market. Now there's a need now to build and accelerate some of the skills in South Africa. So we are engaging with the leadership team in terms of really bolstering our digital hub in Africa, because there's definitely a need that could also be the skills that we also utilize in the global stage, but as well as for our customers as we accelerate to the cloud. So without a doubt, you are spot on. It's something that is on the radar and within our strategy to really create a hub for digital skills in country in Africa. We already have solutions like Humex Attention that even the global organization is tapping into the local expertise in terms of servicing our customers even at a global level. So without a doubt, you will see, watch the space, there will be some great opportunities, and hopefully partnerships with AFSOC will be great as well.
That is really awesome, because I think we've got such a, we are so ideally located, and we are so rich with that energy that is required. And what's also nice where the technology is now is if someone starts from a non-SAP background,
Yes.
it's fairly straightforward
To
now
the front.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Because the technology now lends itself to bringing in anything else and everything else. The focus on architecture, of course,
Yes.
massive.
Yes. Yes. And I think to your point is that we're well positioned. The location aspect of time zone even then, and as well as the efficiencies. I never want to call our workforce cheap. It's the efficiencies, because the expertise that comes out of the region is superb.
Yeah.
Very attractive to the global market. That definitely it is a good opportunity for us to look into. And I've been fortunate to be part of some of the boards, trusts that are driving skills development in country. I'm also in the Digital Council for Africa, where aspects of skills, acceleration and discussions and partnerships with government. So we are definitely at the perfect spot for us to really consider as a priority building the skills in country.
I think you joined SAP at the right time.
I've got a friend, Blue. I've been friends with her for many years. I'm like, why don't you come to SAP? I think to your point earlier. And when I told her I'm joining, I said, I have landed at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Obviously, without a doubt, there are lots of challenges that we have got to navigate. There's a lot that we need to do with our customers, but that is the most exciting thing for me. When I'm in front of the customer, challenges that they pose and really getting to the solutions with our customers, I think it's something that I am thriving on. Not easy, giving sleepless nights, and the schedule is that your diary gets to be so busy. But I think, as you're saying, it was the perfect time. But I must say thank you again for launching me into that space as a group. Now looking forward to next year and what we can do. And what is interesting is that when I joined, we had just launched Jewel. And that's what I announced. And it was at the beginning. And you look at what we have done now. Over just a year, we have really built a number of use cases across all the solution set that now we're able to take our customers, because those solutions are embedded in our technology that our customers can really make use of.
And also that close partnership with other companies, like with the Microsofts, like with the ServiceNows. I think those partnerships and that co-development is definitely also bringing it.
Even the teams do attest the adoption of our strategy by our partners. At AFSOC, we had all our global SIs and partners who were participating with our customers at AFSOC, at SAPIL. The acceleration actually is really taking really great strides in the market. So it's something that we definitely are driving.
So let's talk a little bit about outside. What is it that makes you excited? What if you do? I'm sure you don't get many opportunities to take some time. I know you like running. I've had meetings with you. We just come back from a run. I don't know how much time you get for that. But what are the things that interest you?
I'm very much of a novice when it comes to running. I do it because I have to. I don't know. I know you're the runner. You're passionate about it. But I cycle.
Okay.
Which I think with the schedule at SAP has taken a bit of a
backseat,
but I'm definitely going to pick up. So I do cycle. I love hiking.
Okay.
I have done. I've been to Kilimanjaro.
Oh wow!
Yes, and
can I just pause for a moment and just reflect on the irony? We are in the Kilimanjaro boardroom at the moment.
Oh.
So you've done it twice.
Exactly, I've climbed Kilimanjaro. But my claim to fame with Kilimanjaro is fascinating. I did Meru first, which is, I think, the 5th highest in Africa, just for acclimatization.
Okay.
And then by the time I went to Kili, it was quite fun. I was dancing at every
I've never heard anyone say that.
Honestly. And the reason is I acclimatized, and Mount Meru was very technical.
Yeah.
So it really made the experience so beautiful. But my next one was going to be Mount Kenya. but I joined SAP. I still need to figure out, and Everest Camp is my next one to go through. I need to get fit and exercise because certain things have happened along the way. I need to rebuild. But that's my passion outside work. I even moved towards the cradle so that I can cycle. But those are the things I'm passionate about, besides time with my kids and reading. That's something that I really, going to nature, something that I really love to just reconnect.
That is awesome. So you almost applied design thinking to climbing because you did Mount Ayliff first.
Exactly.
The prototype.
And the prototype.
Tested.
I tested because apparently the altitude got hold of me, get the best of me, because at some point I literally sat down and cried, but it was the build-up. I also ride a motorbike.
Oh wow, I didn't see that coming.
I also ride a motorbike. I've got a Harley, a Road King.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
I like long roads,
okay.
Open roads. I've done the Road 66 from Chicago to LA. I've ridden solo from Joburg to Margate when we used to have Africa Bike Week. So those are the things that really I reconnect. After a busy week, I just get home on a weekend, get into the open road and just re-energize.
That is really fascinating. I would not have picked you for a Holy Girl, but it's fantastic. Ooh, maybe next time at the next Apila you can make a nice entrance.
You know what, James? When I just joined that, I write a Harley. Oh, maybe you can just come into the conference hall on a Harley. There's no way my fellow joining the organization making that mistake. Definitely not. Maybe next year.
I think that would be the perfect entrance.
Yes.
Kholiwe, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure we'll have many more of these conversations, and looking forward to further engagement and seeing all the things that come out. I can tell you, just from my experience, and I've been in the world of SAP since the 90s, and SAP today is a very different organization. So I do think you joined at the right time. I think the energy matches now. And SAP is starting to feel, I almost want to say it's starting to feel real. It's no longer this entity somewhere where you feel like you don't really have direct access. It's starting to feel that you're feeling that engagement.
The connection, the intimacy that we're rebuilding with our customers, with our partners, and having those robust conversations. We're not this part and the customers are on this side. So definitely it is exciting, but when you venture into such, it gets to be tough conversations that we have got to be ready to really engage with our customers authentically, be able to share clearly our roadmap. And I think, as we were saying at the beginning, it is just not selling, understanding as well our customer journey and how we can enable them to get to that point in terms of being able to really deliver on their strategy as well. So without a doubt, it has been a great time. And there's still more to come, more challenges ahead, which I always coin them as opportunities, because when there are challenges, it's definitely opportunities that we can tap into. But for me, it really was quite a great opportunity for me to have been launched into AFSO, because I think over the few months and the past year, the collaboration that we've had with you guys has been great, phenomenal. I could say we are still a few days after Women's Month. That is power to women with the leadership, and we're taking over from the previous leader who unfortunately passed on. It has been great and phenomenal. The work that you are doing, guys, is great. Thank you. It is only at that point that we cannot do it alone. If our customers are not happy, and I think that is testimony of the power of the user group. So we really thank you very much for that collaboration.
Thank you very much, and thank you too.